Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, Stephen Young of Roto Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're talking bets for the South Point 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway here on Running Hot. The last weekend at the Charlotte Roval, Shane Van Gisbergen won, of course, again, fourth road course win in a row. But the bigger story was, of course, the playoffs. Now, SVG did finish ahead of Kyle Larson in second and Christopher Bell in third, but they were already locked into the next round of the playoffs by that point, virtue of stage points and some of their rivals not getting enough stage points. And the big story was the battle between Ross Chastain and Joey Logano for that final transfer spot in the playoffs. Ross Chastain had to hold off Denny Hamlin on the last lap to maintain position and keep himself in the playoffs. He made a mistake going into turn 7. Denny Hamlin got underneath him. And in desperation, Ross tried to pass Denny into the final corner, spun Denny out, spun himself out, and Joey Logano made the final spot in the round of 8 in the playoffs. So, Stevie, what do you think of the Roval and of the Ross desperation there?
I thought the Roval was fine. I mean, SVG just continues to remind us that he's probably the best NASCAR driver that we've ever seen on road courses. Like, he's doing it by so much. Like, he's not winning by a car length or 2 car lengths. Like, Larson, probably the second best car this past weekend at the Roval because of the speed that he was able to generate on, like, the oval part of the race. And, like, he was there with SVG for, like, 5 laps, and then it was just like, this guy is so good at maintaining his stuff. He's gone. I mean, so SVG doesn't matter. It's really hard to bet anything besides SVG at this point on road courses because he's just so good. So congrats to him. Dominating performance again. As far as everything else, like, I thought the Ross Logano battle was really cool. I think Ross kind of choked it away on pit road twice. I mean, speeding and then missing the end of pit road, just forgetting to turn. Like, it should have never been as close as it was. I mean, Ross was way better than Joey race car wise, and he gave up his track position twice, and he had an opportunity. And I think that had Denny known that Ross was battling with Logano, I think Denny really lets Chastain get in. Like, who do you want to face in the next 3 races? Do you want to face Chastain or Logano? Well, I want to face Chastain. No offense to Ross, but Joey's really good at Martinsville. Joey's really good at Talladega, and Joey's really good at Las Vegas. And guess what? The Penske cars are really good at Phoenix. So if I am Denny trying to win a championship, I mean, I think it was a huge mess up by his team not letting him know the situation there at the end, because I think what would have been best for Denny's championship odds would have been Ross getting in over Joey, but it should have never came to any of that. Like I said, Ross has to look in the mirror, not for the end of the race, but hey, you can't miss the end of pit road, and you can't, I mean, speeding on pit road is going to happen. Don't get me wrong, but like, you have to know the situation. Like, you're 10, 12 cars in front of Joey. You've gotten stage points. Like, you can't speed there. So I think it was just maybe just kind of doing too much for Ross on pit road. Twice it happened. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the Roval was fine. I thought the tire fall off made the Roval a lot better this time around than it had been in the past. We saw a lot more passing later in runs and 2 to 3 seconds of fault. Like, that is exactly what we needed for the Roval. I think the racing was a lot better than it had been in the past.
I agree. And yeah, there was a good battle between Kyle Larson and SVG at one point. SVG was better than Larson on the long run, and he came to try to pass him, and they were beating and banging a little bit, and Larson kind of retaliated a little bit. And then the next time he got back to him, Larson let it go because SVG passed him cleanly. But several things to respond here to that. I know we're going to talk bets here soon, but first of all, it pains me to say this, and like, a lot of people our generation, Stevie, a lot of people's first racing hero was Jeff Gordon, and I completely agree. SVG has passed Jeff Gordon in the greatest road racer of all time in NASCAR Cup argument there. So I'll fully admit that. But to your point about Ross, full credit to him. He completely took responsibility for all those mistakes in the TV interview. He felt horrible. He said no excuses, just complete driver error. I will say on the second one, he wasn't trying to speed. He accidentally double clicked into a gear, which caused him to over rev or over accelerate or whatever by accident. It wasn't like he was trying to go too fast and get too much out of it. It was just a double shift there, which, is still something he shouldn't be doing. But it wasn't trying to push the limits, but it was a little bit of a careless error there, just like coming off pit road. So felt really bad for Russ because he was, completely dejected after the race, but took full responsibility. So as far as the playoffs go, we have the round of 8. Denny Hamlin leads with 4,036 points. Ryan Blaney 2 points behind him. Kyle Larson and William Byron 4 points behind Denny Hamlin, and that's where the cutoff line is. They are 4 points ahead of Christopher Bell. And then another 10 points back is Chase Elliott and Chase Briscoe, both Chases there. And then another 10 points back of that is Joey Logano. So Joey Logano already sitting 24 points behind the cutoff line where William Byron is. And that's because he's only had the one win this year and only a couple of stage wins. So that's why Joey Logano sitting 24 points. Stevie, real quick, let's go through who we think is our final 4. Who do you have?
I think it's close. I really do. I mean, I have to put Blaney and Bell in there. Just kind of looking at what we have coming up, I think that Blaney had one of the best cars at Las Vegas earlier this year. Before, what was it like? It was like 4 wide or something, and like Bell came up, and I think it was Blaney, Gregson, and Bubba, because Bubba had one of the better cars too. So I'm gonna go Blaney for sure. And then Bell, I really like the tracks coming up for Bell too, and I like how consistent he is. After that, it's really tough. We've gone from like that huge gap of points where now it's really condensed. I'm going to say Joey is out. I think 24 points is a lot, and I think even with the tracks that we have coming up, I'm going to say Joey's going to miss it. So I'm going to go my final 4, Blaney, Bell, Larson, and then I think I'm going to go Denny Hamlin over Chase Briscoe. I think it's going to be close. I'm just going to give Denny a little bit of an edge here with the races that are coming up. And they've gotten their 1.5 program fixed since the beginning of this year. He's been really good the last 3 that we've had. So I'm going to go Denny, Blaney, Bell, and Larson. I mean, Kyle Larson's just so good at Las Vegas, and they're so good at Martinsville. So if he can just kind of stay out of trouble at Talladega, I think it's really interesting that Talladega's in this round, just in general. But that's what I got for my final 4.
Yeah, and you mentioned Briscoe now. I think definitely in a Briscoe versus Hamlin scenario, right? Denny Hamlin having the 18 extra points cushion to start the round is nice there. So for me, I am going to go with Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell. Same 4 as you.
That's the 4 that I had in my bracket too. Like,
yeah,
that's the same
it's
4.
really tough though, because William Byron, really good at Las Vegas, obviously great at the super speedways and really good at Martinsville. Chase Elliott, really good at especially Martinsville and Talladega. Maybe not quite as much as Vegas, but hey, he just won Kansas. So, Chase Briscoe, really good at Martinsville, should be strong at Vegas. Talladega, he's not been the most amazing super speedway racer, but he's been in the mix several times, even in Stewart-Haas equipment. And then Joey Logano, like you just said, really good at Talladega. He's won twice in the next gen era at Las Vegas. And then Martinsville, the Penske's are always strong. So any of these drivers can make the final 4. It's going to be an exciting round of 8. But we are on to Las Vegas this weekend for the South Point 400. Las Vegas, a 1.5 mile classic oval, our standard 1.5 mile track there. We always often compare it to Kansas, but a little bit different banking, a little bit different surface age, but because, Kansas gets more of those harsh, cold winters, Kansas does age a little bit quicker than Las Vegas. So they do race relatively similar in terms of tire fall off and stuff like that. But Vegas is banked at 20 degrees and no variable banking, whereas Kansas has that variable banking as well. So those are the little subtle differences. But talk about racing at Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that we've talked about with Las Vegas over the last couple of years has been the fall off. The fall off continues to increase and increase and increase, and makes a lot of sense where it's located and the summers and stuff that they get there. So fall off is going to be a huge conversation that we're going to talk about a lot this week because of, just kind of how it sets up. I think drivers that are going out in the second group in qualifying going to make a huge difference because of how this track, like group one should be a little bit faster in practice, and then group two should be faster in qualifying from what we've seen in the past year. So I think that's all just important information to kind of keep in the back of your mind. And then, yeah, I mean, racing here at Vegas, I like Vegas. It's a steep track. There's 3-4 lanes that you can run. You can run multiple lanes. You can run the top. Typically, we see drivers, as runs and tires start to fall off, we see them migrate towards the top. And I mean, it kind of is getting to the point where it reminds me a little bit more of Homestead. If we get a little bit more tire wear at Vegas over the next couple of years, I think I might start throwing in like Homestead to my like comp tracks for Las Vegas.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Especially if we get a little bit more tire wear and, the steepness, the 20 degrees banking there. The only other difference, of course, Homestead, like Kansas, also has that variable banking. So maybe someday we'll be using Homestead as a Kansas comp as well, as Kansas continues to wear and age. But agree with you all on all those points, and really good point about practice, how Group 1 is probably going to be faster than Group 2. That's why we have your practice model, my practice flags, because that all gets group adjusted. So another intangible there. Any other final things for Vegas before we dive into the bets?
No, I will say just another thought on like practice really quick. Like the practice model and flags was really spot on in the spring. I look back and it was one of our better tracks. Like if you were off, there was a couple drivers that were just off speed wise, like Denny Hamlin. And like Joey Logano was really bad in practice, but like right when he got into traffic, he was really bad. So like, yeah, I think practice is going to matter a lot. We talk about that all the time anyway, but playoff drivers matter. Like this group of 8 that we have is really strong. It's one of the better group 8s that we've had in years past, in my opinion. Like Joey Logano, he's a champion. Like, yeah, he's probably not as fast as some of these other guys, but he's a champion. So you look at it, and Briscoe's firing on all cylinders. Chase Elliott has shown speed recently. And then you got your guys. You got Bell, Byron, Larson, Blaney, and Hamlin, the guys that have been fast all year at every different type of racetrack. So playoff drivers are going to matter. And then the last thing that I will say is earlier this year, we had like a 13, 14 lap run at the end of stage 2, and a couple drivers tried to take 2 tires. It did not work. They went backwards so fast. I think Ross was able to finish like 6th or 7th, but like Denny finished outside the top 10 in that. I think it was Eric Jones, I think, was the other one that did it, and like he finished way back. So 4 tires. Anytime you get a run over like 20, 25 laps, 4 tires is going to matter.
That said,
the end of the race, yeah, I know.
The end of the race, it didn't quite matter as much because Josh Berry, of course, you're defending Vegas winner, not from last year, but from the earlier this season. They made the older tires work on the fuel strategy, or on just kind of on a strategy play there, and were able to hold them off. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was also Suarez and Priest kind of on that strategy as well. And those were the wild. I mean, if you had Berry, Suarez, and Priest top 3 parlay or something like that, that would have been a $1 million parlay. I think obviously nobody did. And I don't think any sports book allow you to do that, but that was definitely a wild podium we had earlier this year at Las Vegas. But it is time to dive into those bets. As always, we'll drive through the race stage by stage with a shorter odds bet in stage 1, followed by a longer odds bet in stage 2. Finally, we'll race through stage 3 and end up in victory lane with our combined favorite bet. So we're going to throw the green flag on the South Point 400 and fire off for stage 1. First stage, Stevie, you're going right to the guy that we just talked about missing the round of 8, Ross Chastain. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Ross Chastain for a top 10 here at plus 115. This car is prepped well in advance of him missing the cutoff. So this car is going to be a, hey, we made the next round of the playoffs type of car. Ross is finished inside the top 10 in 6 of the 7 races here with the next gen car. You know, you kind of just talked about it. Earlier this year, he finished 5th on some strategy, but he was really good. I mean, he ran inside the top 10 almost the entire race. I think his average running position was like 11.4. Speed was really good for Ross earlier this year. I think he finished like 7th, 8th in speed. If I remember correctly, I don't have that tab up. I accidentally clicked it out. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Ross Chastain is in a really good spot for a top 10. We look at the 1.5s this season. His average finish is 7.2, which is better than everybody. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of bet on this car was prepped well before he got eliminated. It's going to be a car. They do great strategy, and they're going to go out and try to win a race now. That's what we've seen from Trackhouse. We see RFK do some like testing, but Trackhouse goes out and they try to win races. So I'm going to go Ross top 10 here as a early week. I think it's kind of a safer bet at plus money.
Yeah. So Ross Chastain, of course, been really strong, especially at Vegas and Kansas in the 1.5-mile tracks, but also Charlotte. We've seen him perform really strong. So just overall, like you said, this is the best track type for Ross right now at this point in his career and where he's at with Trackhouse. The 1.5 miles have kind of, crazy enough, been his bread and butter. He's always been really good at the steep tracks as well. And Vegas, like you said, kind of steep, kind of Homestead compy now. Really good spot here for Ross Chastain. And I really like that point about the car that's already prepped, thinking there was a chance they could make this round. So Ross Chastain top 10 plus 115 is Stevie's stage 1 bet. For my stage 1 bet, I'm going to be fading the Las Vegas winner from earlier this year, Josh Berry. And I'm going to take Brad Keselowski over Josh Berry plus 110 at Caesars. And I think this line is just a little inflated because Berry won that race on a strategy play. But if we look throughout, kind of the course of the season overall, these two have been pretty close, but I definitely would give the nod to Brad Keselowski, especially at Kansas. He had a car that was going to win the race until his tire blew in the first Kansas race. And then if we look again, just at the most recent Kansas race, Brad Keselowski coming home ahead of Josh Berry. Of course, Berry had problems there in 33rd. But I just on balance, these two are pretty close. But I would just give the overall nod to Brad Keselowski here. I think the team has been performing. We know Keselowski had a horrible slump early in the season. A lot of that was bad luck, some DNFs, but there was some moments they weren't quite as quick as well. But really in the second half of the season, Keselowski has come along. I mean, 5th at Charlotte, for example, finishing ahead of Josh Berry there. He had 2 DNFs at Texas and Kansas as the other, 3 1.5-mile stretch there in the middle of the season. But then, you go on towards the second half of the season, and Brad Keselowski been much better, performing well. Again, finished ahead of Josh Berry at Michigan, which is a 2-mile track, but another one where I think you could kind of lump it into that intermediate style racing there. So I'm going to take Brad Keselowski plus 110 over Josh Berry. I think it should be flipped the other way around, and I think Brad should be the slight favorite over Josh Berry. So give me the plus money here.
Yeah, I will say anytime you hear me say intermediate tracks, I do put Michigan in my intermediate group with this next gen car. I have these guys as like 17, 18. So I think it's a coin flip. You're getting it at plus money. Early season, I would have bet Berry. Late season, I would have bet Keselowski. So, I mean, I think you're right on it with your analysis here. And everything that you said, I mean, I agree with. I mean, earlier in the year, Berry better than Brad. Late in the year, Brad way better than Berry. So, I mean, I get this for sure.
Alrighty, so stage 1, once again, Stevie has Ross Chastain for a top 10 finish at plus 115. I've got Brad Keselowski finishing ahead of Josh Berry at plus 110, and we'll throw the green and white checkered on stage 1, come in for some tires and some fuel. But before we fire off for stage 2, the NFL is, of course, underway. We are getting ready for week 6 here. And to get the most out of the award-winning Action app, you'll want to be an Action Pro subscriber, because only Pro subscribers get real-time pick alerts from experts like Stuckey, Chris Raybon, Brandon Anderson, myself, and our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can access our Pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. So to celebrate the NFL's return, we've got a special offer For a limited time, you can get 33% off a monthly subscription. So for the price of a week, you get a month's worth of access. Head to actionnetwork.com/pro today to get 33% off of a monthly subscription. All right, Stevie, we are here in stage 2, and we're going to go to a guy that maybe should have won the most comparable track, Kansas, just a couple weeks ago, Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, really fast at Kansas a couple weeks ago, really fast at Las Vegas earlier this year before they got into that mess. We'll just call it a mess because that's exactly what it was. Like I said, it was like a 4-wide deal. And I'm going to go to Bubba for a top 10. It's plus 125 on Hard Rock here in Florida. Other books have it close to even money. So I think this is one that I feel good about, up to even money. So, definitely shop this one around. But you look at the average finishes here for him, it's awful. I mean, he only has one top 10 finish in the 7 races here with the next gen car. But if you look at the speed is always what I look at. He's been a top 10 car in speed in 4 of those 7 races, and we're getting this at plus 125. And the recent speed, like you mentioned, really good at the 1.5s. He's been really solid speed-wise at all the 1.5s outside of Charlotte. And we know that was just kind of a mess for him. So I think if you look at all the data, you look how good he was at Kansas recently. Again, I mean, this race in particular, I think that no testing this late in the season, no testing for these teams. These cars are built way in advance. So like Reddick and him, these cars were built. So I feel very comfortable about 2311 speed this week. And I know you're about to talk about it too, but I'm going to go a little safer route here with Bubba and say top 10 plus 125. And don't forget, like, this is a guy that was competing with Kyle Larson leading this race at before all that stuff happened last year. So I really like where Bubba was at earlier this year here.
Yeah, I mean, Las Vegas is the track where Larson and Bubba had their famous incident as well, the retaliatory hook from Bubba Wallace, which got him a 1-race suspension there. But they were running, like first and second or fourth and fifth or something like that at the time of that incident. So right inside the top 5 as well. So you mentioned it. Look at speed. Don't necessarily look at the finishes. Bubba Wallace top 10 plus 125 for Stevie in stage 2. And you alluded to it. I am going to go to his teammate, Tyler Reddick. But instead of going the safe route with a top 10 finish, I'm going to take Tyler Reddick to win. 15-1, you can get that right now. So Tyler Reddick, I went to the Vegas race, the first Vegas race last year, and he and Larson were just so much better than the rest of the field. And he was catching Larson at the end of that race. Another lap or two, and Reddick would have won that race. He is just so good here at Las Vegas. He set the fastest lap at Las Vegas earlier this year. Didn't have the results at this race. He finished 24th. Don't exactly remember what happened, but again, looking at speed overall, Tyler Reddick has been so fast at Las Vegas. And we look at Kansas, a couple weeks ago, and he was right there in the mix. He was pushing Bubba Wallace on those final couple of restarts on the front row there. So Reddick was in the second row. So the 2311 cars found the speed again at Kansas. They should still be really fast at Las Vegas. And 15 is just a little bit too long for me on Tyler Reddick. I think, I would play this at 15. I would play this at 14. I'd probably stop at 13 because it is pretty thin value there at that point. But I like Tyler Reddick at 15-1. And the other thing is, Kyle Larson has been really good, but he wasn't the fastest car at Kansas. It was all the Toyotas that were fastest at Kansas, and Larson only finished 6th. So we have seen Hendrick Motorsports, I wouldn't say struggle, but like not quite have the speed that they had earlier in the season, especially throughout these playoffs here. And we've also noticed, we talked about this 1 or 2 episodes ago, that, track history hasn't not quite meant as much. So maybe a little bit of a blemish there for Kyle Larson, just because track history isn't quite as strong at Las Vegas. And of course I did just talk about it with Reddick, but you get the point where if it's not quite as strong for Larson, that could open up value for the rest of the field as well. So just some thoughts there on Kyle Larson as it relates to this Tyler Reddick bet, because you're going to have to try to beat Kyle Larson. You're going to have to try to beat Denny Hamlin, but Tyler Reddick, I think, can do it. And I love 15-1 here.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Reddick was really fast here earlier this year. And every time we go to a track that has a steeper banking racetrack, with tire wear, like Tyler Reddick's going to be up on my list. You know, I was talking about like Homestead earlier, and like think about how good he has been in all the series at Homestead. If we look at this race in particular, I mean, he ranks third in speed over the next gen races here. But if we really look at the last like 2 or 3 races here, second in speed. I mean, he has just been so incredibly good here. He's knocking on the door, and he's dealing with a lot of like real life stuff right now.
Yeah.
This guy needs a win. I mean, he needs a win. And I think that this is going to be a car that's going to be capable of winning. So, I mean, I'm rooting for him at this point. I want all the off the track stuff to go well for him and his family. And I'm rooting for some positive vibes for him. So I'd love to see him win this week. And I'd love for you to cash this 15-1 ticket too.
Yes, please. It would be an absolutely emotional win for Tyler Reddick. And I definitely think we all are, of course, wishing the best for Tyler's child and their family as a whole. And maybe he'll get to victory lane this weekend at Las Vegas. So for stage 2, Stevie's got Bubba Wallace top 10 finish plus 125. I have Tyler Reddick to win this race at 15-1. So that'll do it for stage 2. We'll drive through stage 3 as well, take the checkered flag, and end up in victory lane with our favorite combined bet. And Stevie, this is one you go to often, and I had it as well. So yeah, what do we got?
We're going to Toyota for the winning manufacturer. I think it's going to be Toyota versus Larson versus Blaney. And it's all of Toyota. It's not just one. I mean, Byron, okay, we'll throw Byron up there, sure. But I think Ford is definitely going to be represented by Blaney this weekend. And if we just look at just speed alone for the next gen races here, Bell, Denny, Reddick, there's so many in tied to like top 6 or 7 in speed. Denny was out to lunch here earlier this year, but if we look at some of the recent data, he's really fast, typically at Vegas. And, I mean, you just talked about Reddick. Bubba was really fast here. Christopher Bell is one of the best here. Every time we come here for a playoff race, like 2022, first in speed. 2023, first in speed. 2024, first in speed. So I love Christopher Bell just in general heading into this race, and I think he's very capable of winning this race. He's always really fast here in the playoff race. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to Toyota as the race-winning manufacturer. I think it's at plus 140 over there on Bet365. So, yeah, I mean, just a really good bet when you're thinking it's kind of like 4 against 2 against 1 potentially, and you're getting it at plus 140. Like, it's a math bet for me. And you know how much you love math bets. So
that's right. And actually, I was just thinking about as a math bet. First of all, before we get to the math bet part of it, Toyota, there were 5 Toyotas fighting for the win at Kansas just a couple weeks ago, right? So they all cost each other the win, and Chase Elliott stole it. But that's kind of how, this bet might not win. But also it could be, like you said, from Larson, from Byron, or Blaney. And I was trying to math it out while you were talking. Like, you could possibly, I think, bet Toyota to win at plus 140. And then if you size it right, you could take Larson, Blaney, and Byron and profit if any of those hit. I think I need to do the math on it, but that is a potential viable strategy. And then you just got to hope, again, Chase Elliott doesn't steal the win, or like a Ross Chastain or a Joey Logano doesn't steal the win type deal, because those guys are very capable of grabbing the win. But, or a Josh Berry, but, you get the point there. But I think you could size it to where you profit if Toyota, Larson, Byron, or Blaney hit. I am not doing that. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying I think it's possible as an avenue if that was a strategy somebody wanted to take. But I really like Toyota. Just look at that Kansas finish. It was 5 Toyotas, and then they'll cost each other the win. So give me Toyota winning manufacturer plus 140. I love it. That is our victory lane pick for the South Point 400, and that'll do it for us. Thank you for listening to the South Point 400 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's Motorsports Betting Podcast. If you'd like to tail some of the bets we discussed today, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. We'll be back next week to talk bets for the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega Super Speedway. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.